Hi, today I want to raise a question about project management of IT projects. What are the responsibilities of PM role here? In my previous video, I mentioned that PMP has yet to become the standard of IT project management, similar to other certifications. I had the opportunity to work as IT project manager in several companies, and my responsibilities have varied significantly from one company to another. Why did this occur? The reality is that each IT company follows a startup-like trajectory, and consequently, the perception of PM role evolves along this path. Let's explore this graphically and imagine a launch of a startup. Any startup starts with the idea from founder, and ours is no exception. We can name the founder role the product owner. So the product owner finds the developer who will be implementing the idea, which is decomposed into the user stories. And the developer needs to implement these user stories into code. So this is the first step of any startup. Further, the development team requires scaling, and the developer asks product owner to hire more specialists. In this diagram, our developer becomes a team lead and further distribute user stories between the new specialists, and also continue to contribute to the project. It already seems that we can think about getting a project manager here, but in our history, it will appear much later. So the project is developing, and the project code can be stored locally and should work somewhere. And further, the team lead will have additional responsibilities related to the technical support of the project. In this diagram, these responsibilities are designated as infrastructure, which can be development infrastructure, a production infrastructure, version control systems, servers, and so on. And in our case, the team becomes more self-organized, and each developer can independently take user stories from the backlog. And the team lead controls the developer as much as possible, given their workload. So the project develops and goes into production. At the same time, the additional tasks and processes arise that need to be worked on, and the product owner has no choice but to add new role. And what kind of processes are added for the live projects? The first process is requests. It's some pool of tasks that doesn't arise from the product owner. As a rule, there's some bugs or issues coming from the client or the users. This may be some concern requirements, service requirements, and so on. Correspondingly, to deal with these requirements, a new role, client service or support specialist, appears to transfer these requirements into the specific user stories. Additional paperwork also arises, such as procurement, work with the contractors, report to the investors, contract with services, and so on. This is shown on the diagram as a legal and reports. The product owner can do some of this, but they need help here from client service. Then the situation arises that the project becomes more and more complicated, and the product owner doesn't have the opportunity to describe each feature as a user story. They want to focus on the bigger picture and become product manager. Also, the development team can have pretense that some of the user stories that client service creates are poorly described. And to deal with this, new role arises. We have a new entity features on this diagram. The feature is a high-level description of some functionality. Also, we have a new role as analyst. The analyst's goal is to take features and complicated requests from the client service and form them into the user stories that will be understandable for the dev team. And more straightforward user stories, client service and product manager can create independently. Nevertheless, a new problem arises that product managers don't like. From their point of view, the development team is working slowly, and tasks with incomprehensible periodicity arise in production. Thus, the decision made to reform the team and apply the agile approach. On this diagram, the team leads begin to play a role of Scrum Master, distributing tasks individually and planning sprints. Thus, they no longer have time to support the infrastructure. A new role, DevOps or SRE, appears, who is fully responsible for this. However, the team lead complains that the tasks have been thrown to the backlog from 3 sides. It's not clear how to prioritize and validate them. And now they want to have a single point informing the user stories backlog. The project manager role finally emerged, serving as a central point of shaping scope of user stories and prioritizing tasks for the team. It's important to reiterate we are exploring a hypothetical scenario, but closely aligned with reality. Also, the project manager could have entered the project at the early stages as well. And also, it may happen that at some point, the product manager approached the team lead with an expected conversation.
Hey, since we embarked on this startup journey together, there is something I've been meaning to discuss with you. Oh, you're thinking of promoting me to CDO? Not quite. With our current financial situation, we might need to release 3 team members to keep the company afloat. Do you have any suggestion on which tech team member we might let to go? No, we can't afford to lose anyone for the tech team. On the contrary, we need more hands on deck. I was expecting you to say that. Then I'm considering cutting the roles of the client service, project manager, and analyst. And this means you have to take their duties as the IT project manager. Dun, dun, dun. And then when someone comes to get a job in the role of IT project manager, candidate can be shocked about these PM responsibilities. And everything could have turned out differently. The PM could have appeared in a project earlier, or might not appear in a project at all. Here is the example of the scheme of the work of one of the reasonably large IT company, where there is no PM role at all. As we can see, each developer has a product and project approach. Each of them can independently process incoming requests and manage the infrastructure. It turns out to be some kind of the army of unsalted. But believe me, such team exists. How is this possible, you ask? How can a project exist without a project manager? I think this because there is no projects in IT at all. There is only elements of project management. But I will rate this in a next video. I deliberately didn't mention the roles of QA and a designer in other diagrams. And here on this diagram, I want to show where they can be. And yes, someone should also manage them. In theory, an IT project manager could encounter various challenges, as illustrated across the diagrams. Their tasks must encompass generating and managing features while constructing their product roadmap. This responsibility might typically belong to product owner, but I've encountered project managers who also handle this duty. Manage requests, and from them and features can be user stories. Manage user stories and plan and run sprints. Manage paperwork to create communication, budget, procurement, and stakeholder engagement plans. Manage code infrastructure and create a technical roadmap. In conclusion, I want to say that as a result, we have an industry where there is no clear description of a key role on the project, the role of IT project manager. And the rest roles are also very poorly described. What do you think? Is it good or bad? Share in comments. Thanks.